Oregon has one official mental health hospital, and it's in Salem. There's a smaller one in Junction City, which is northwest of Eugene, but tonight we're just going to focus on Salem. The hospital there is full. That is a problem because there are lots of people with serious mental health problems stuck waiting in county jails around the state, waiting to get into that very hospital, but there's just no room for them. Tonight we're going to hear from an advocate for those prisoners, Emily Cooper. She's the legal director for Disability Rights Oregon. The group led a lawsuit that is forcing the early release of people who are at the state hospital now next month to make room for other patients. We'll also talk with a county prosecutor who says it's a terrible idea, and he's worried about the consequences of releasing people who are not done with their mental health treatment. That's Kevin Barton from Washington County. Now, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What we're talking about is a group of people charged with crimes who cannot aid and assist in their own defense. So, for example, someone gets arrested for robbery. Let's call him Bob. Bob goes to court. His attorney says, "Judge, my client has serious mental health issues and is not aware of what's happening even right now. They cannot aid and assist in their own defense." If the judge agrees, they'll send Bob to the state hospital where he should get the medication or the assistance that he needs to understand what's happening in court, and then eventually he'll go back to court. But right now, the state hospital is already full of patients, as I said. About half were convicted of crimes but ruled insane, and those people could be there for a long time. And the rest are people being restored so that they can aid and assist with their defense. So let's go back to Bob. The judge said he should be admitted to the state hospital, but instead he's waiting and waiting and still waiting in a county jail cell, waiting for that spot to open up in the state hospital. Now, people like Bob are only supposed to be waiting in jail for 7 days or less. But right now, that wait is nearly 40 days to get into the state hospital. And because this wait, Disability Rights Oregon and the Metro Public Defender's Office asked a federal judge to tell the state hospital to set firm timelines for treatment. And they're going to move people out of the hospital faster, which will get people out of jail faster and into the hospital. Here's Emily Cooper from Disability Rights Oregon. And by the way, I want to apologize. There was something in my home office that kept making a sound and kept bringing the Zoom camera back to me. It happens way too often, and so I apologize for that. I left it in, though, because it was happening while Emily was talking, and I wanted you to hear her comments.
Jails are not designed to treat. They're designed to punish. So jails are in this awful predicament of how do we keep this person safe? And the way they tend to do that is to take away their clothes, to take away their belongings, to put them in isolation rooms. And that is hard on anyone's mental health, much less someone who already is pretty ill. And so you have these awful punitive jail conditions. But the other real major thing is that people die in jail waiting to get to the state hospital. So that's why the 7-day rule that was implemented by the court 20 years ago is so important. There's a recognition, not just that their liberty is being deprived, but that there are some real serious, irrevocable harm that can happen to people while they wait.
She's talking about suicides or deaths that come from the mental health issue. She pointed to the tragic case of a 22-year-old man who died in the Washington County Jail this past spring. The man had severe mental health problems and stopped eating and drinking while in jail, and he died as he was waiting for a spot to open up at the state mental hospital. This new timeline goes like this. Those charged with a misdemeanor will only be treated for a maximum of 90 days and then released back to the county from which they came. Non-Measure 11 felonies, not violent, can be treated for up to 6 months. People charged with violent felonies can be treated for up to a year. I mean, I think a lot of us assume that if patients are sent to the state hospital and are still there, they are still there because they still need to be there, and that putting them out just on an arbitrary timeline maybe sends people out into the community that are not fully, I guess the term is restored. And I wonder if your feeling is that actually that's not the case, that maybe the state hospital is just not administratively on top of it. They're keeping people longer than they need to. What do you think?
Yes to both of those questions. I think first, the vast majority of people sent to the state hospital for restoration treatment are restored within these time periods. And we know that the hospital has what they call their ready to place list. And right now that ready to place list, I believe, is close to 60 people who they say don't need to be at the state hospital anymore. And so I think the ultimate problem is a lot of folks assume that when you go to the state hospital, you're there for comprehensive mental health treatment until you are 100% better. And that's just not the reality. The group of patients we're talking about are simply restored to competency, which means they know who their attorney is, they know who the judge is, they know what charges they've been filed against them, but they still may have unaddressed mental health issues.
The state hospital tells me the first batch of people that are going to be released in early October are all on that ready to place list. 17 are charged with misdemeanors, 6 are charged with nonviolent felonies. But they're just the beginning. A total of more than 100 people will be released over the next 15 months. A couple of weeks ago, the hospital released a list that showed the number of patients being let out for each county. Now they're refusing to update that, saying it would violate the medical privacy rights of those people. Counties, though, are being notified 30 days before the release, according to the hospital. I asked Emily Cooper about the concern that some of these patients are going to end up living on the street. I
think that is a valid concern because a lot of the people that are on the wait list right now to get into the hospital were arrested for crimes related to their houselessness. They may have already not had a home and been charged with vagrancy or trespassing. And so, yes, I think that is a risk that they were houseless and they will be again, but there's still no legal or clinical reason because someone doesn't have a home to keep them in a jail or to keep them in a psychiatric hospital.
Now, as you might imagine, some are cheering this new time limit. Others think it's a dreadful mistake. One of those who think it's a big mistake is Kevin Barton, the Washington County District Attorney. He and 2 others DAs sued to block the new timelines, and they lost. And now he is worried.
The first question is, where do they go? Some might say they should go back to the jail because that's where they were before they went to the hospital. Some might say they shouldn't go to the jail because there's a mental health issue they have, and the jail is not a good place for people with mental health issues. So if they go to the jail, that's problematic. If they don't go to the jail and go to the community, that can be problematic depending on the nature of the crime that the person committed. So for example, in Washington County, we looked at our list of who's at the state hospital now, and we have 3 people who are facing murder charges. 2 of those people are beyond the 1-year time limit that is now imposed. So depending on how this works, it's entirely possible that we could have people facing murder charges, sexual assault charges, domestic violence, child abuse, all the way down to the less serious charges, the property crimes and the public order offenses, who are released back to the communities.
Okay, but I got to believe for these 2 murderers, if that happened, they'd be in the Washington County jail pretty fast.
I don't know the answer to that. That's an unintended consequence, I think, and an unanswered question, because these are people who a judge has said do not belong in the jail because they have documented mental health issues and they need a hospital level of treatment. So we have one judge saying don't keep them in the jail. We have one other rule saying bring them back from the hospital. And what we don't know is where do they go?
I talked with Kevin Barton today to just update things. He said they've not been notified of anyone being sent to their county in October, so it's possible that no one is being released to Washington County in this first batch. But as you can see, that is a major concern for law enforcement folks like the district attorney. I asked him why the jail couldn't just create a special area for people with mental health issues.
Absolutely, that certainly is one solution. You could essentially create a county hospital to replace what the state hospital is doing. And the question there, though, is there are 36 counties in Oregon, and how quickly can 36 counties create 36 separate little hospitals to do what the state should really be doing in the first place? And the reality is, just the practical reality is, that's not going to happen. Those resources don't exist in all 36 counties. They may not exist in any single county because that's asking a pretty big lift for the counties to do in such a short amount of time, because we're talking about, in a matter of weeks, the hospital plans to suddenly discharge people.
DA Barton there says the real solution is to expand the state hospital, to build in more capacity because it's obviously needed. He blamed hospital executives for a lack of leadership and he accused them of ignoring this issue that they've known about for years. So, That's the latest on the mess at the Oregon State Hospital. It's important to understand, though, because I think this is going to affect all of us. So what do you think about this? Is the artificial timeline dangerous? Is it a good thing? Should the state hospital expand? Do you have a better solution? Send me your thoughts. Our email is thestory@kgw.com, or you can call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090.